I have just completed my first term of service among the Kamea people, a remote tribe located in the mountains of the Gulf province of Papua New Guinea. During the course of this first term, I have become absolutely convinced of the effectiveness of your prayers for me. Perhaps in the context of missions, you have heard the analogy given many years ago by William Carey just before sailing to India. He covenanted to go into the dark pit of the lost world to tell souls about Christ if those who stayed behind would covenant to hold on to their end of the rope for him. Throughout this first term, you have so capably held my rope through both your support and your prayers. Would you rejoice with me now as we look at some of the ways that God has worked because you prayed? Many times I've asked you to pray that the Lord would send more laborers for this field. Because you prayed, God is raising up laborers that are partnering with our team to reach other tribes in the Gulf province and throughout Papua New Guinea. While on deputation, and even after arriving on the field, I continually asked you to pray that the Lord would grant me my permanent work permit and visa for Papua New Guinea. Because you prayed, 10 months after arriving on the field, I received my long-term visa. In July of 2010, I asked you to pray specifically for the salvation of some of my friends. Because you prayed, Monica was saved shortly thereafter, and the Lord mercifully allows the others to be confronted with the gospel again and again. At that same time, you began praying for a work to be started in some specific villages. One of those villages was Aminawa. Because you prayed, the Lord allowed Brother John Allen, along with one of our Bible school students, to begin a church in that village. When Brother John went on furlough the next year, Andrew Schellenberger took over the work, and Lord willing, the church will be turned over to a national pastor within the year. You have also been praying for a village called Kamea. Because you prayed, Brother Matt Allen was able to gain clearance to land on that challenging airstrip, and Jason and Cherith Otteson moved there at the beginning of this year to begin a work. Throughout 2011, I asked you to pray for our national pastor, Pastor James Noddy, and Koditanga Baptist Church as they were preparing to host their first ever large-scale preaching meeting in January of 2012. What an experience this was for all of us. The church prepared for 2 years for this 3-day meeting. They planted massive gardens, built buildings and dug toilets. They sold rice and noodles and canned tuna to raise money, took up special offerings. They fasted and prayed, and through it all they saw God work miracles. As I was able to work alongside them, the Lord knit our hearts and allowed lasting friendships to be built. Because you prayed, the Lord abundantly blessed. Nearly 700 people came, some hiking for as many as 5 days. 58 people were saved during the course of the meeting. Throughout 2012, we began laying the groundwork for our future radio ministry. It has been exciting to play a part in this project. Because you prayed, the Lord allowed over 200 small solar-powered radios to be distributed within a 9-month period. They are presently pre-programmed with the New Testament in Pidgin, 10 Pidgin songs, and a message in their tribal language. Lord willing, within the year, we will also be standing up a repeater tower to broadcast Bible FM, a solid Christian radio station operated by fellow missionaries in Mount Hagen. These radios are going and have gone to places where we dream to see work started one day. God's Word, which cannot return void, has arrived there ahead of us and is even now doing the work of breaking up the stony soil. Many times I have shared stories of my junior church kids and asked you to pray for them, as well as for the adults that we are training to work with them. How I love this ministry that God has allowed me to be a part of. Because you prayed, many children have been saved, and God is growing the next generation of Kamea church leaders. Two months after arriving on the field, I was asked to conduct a class teaching students to read and write Pidgin, the trade language of the country. With much fear and trepidation and making many linguistic mistakes along the way, I did so. I knew that one day I would be teaching Kamea literacy, but had no idea what a help it would be for both me and our people to do some Pidgin literacy as well. The Kamea is overwhelmingly and predominantly an oral society. We do not wish to change that in the least, but want to provide them with an opportunity to become literate as well. Because you prayed, the Lord has enabled me to conduct 2 complete literacy courses, training some 30 people to read God's Word. I have also trained my first national teacher. And to increase the abilities of those who already know how to read, I have conducted weekly reading clubs for the past 2 years that are continuing even now. As profitable as the Pidgin literacy has been, it is not my end goal. My heart's desire is to learn the Kamea language fluently and to be a part of translating God's Word into Kamea. This past term, I have spent countless hours in the study of this unwritten language. Because you prayed, God strengthened me for this work and has gradually opened the ears of my understanding. With the aid of my language helper, we have been able to translate several Bible stories. Lord willing, and your prayers continuing, these are my goals for the next term: intense language study, beginning stages of Kamea literacy, and the translation of Bible passages. The road ahead of us is still long, but this is not literacy for the sake of literacy or translation for the sake of translation. It is the combination of literacy and translation for the salvation of souls, the discipling of believers, and the establishment of churches.
Later, Nama, Ipianga ho. Right. Later, Ipianga. Later, Nama, Ipianga ho. Now. Right. Okay.
In consideration of William Carey's analogy of going down into the pit of the lost world, but needing others to hold the rope for him, I would like to share with you something else I read recently. Whether you are down in the pit or on the outside edges of the pit, anybody holding the rope will have scars on their hands. Thank you for holding my rope, and thank you for the scars on your hands because you have. May the one whose hands were scarred not by a rope, but by a nail, receive the reward of his suffering.